Marlene Barnett clung to the handlebars of her bicycle and pedalled furiously along the coast roads. She'd overslept that morning and had woken up to the sound of rain peppering her bedroom window. By the time she'd gone downstairs, Polly had already left for the manor house, now that her sister had wangled the job of assistant to Lady Elizabeth Hartley Compton. She left the house every morning at the crack of dawn. Ma thought it was because Polly was anxious to create a good impression. Marlene knew exactly why Polly broke her neck to get to work. It was so she could see Sam, her American boyfriend, before he left to go to the airbase. Things weren't exactly rosy between Polly and her Sam, but at least they were still talking to each other. Marlene gritted her teeth as the salty wind stung her face. If only she could be so lucky. The trouble with Yanks was that they were fast workers. At least the good-looking ones were. One night out with them, and they wanted to muck about. She should just forget the GIs. Find herself a limey instead. Yarmouth was full of British soldiers looking for a good time. Almost blinded by the wet wind, she didn't see the broken beer barrel until she was almost on it. Her violent wrench on the handlebars unbalanced her, and she squeezed the brakes, sending her back wheel into a skid on the wet road. She landed with a sickening bump in a puddle, with one foot entangled in the front wheel and brown mud streaked all over her raincoat. Examining the ladder running up from the front of her stocking, Marlene gave vent to a string of swear words that would have earned her boxed ears if Ma had heard them. She'd used up all her clothing coupons for that month. Now she'd either have to borrow some from Ma or go around in laddered stockings. As she struggled to free her foot, she heard a muffled roar in the distance. It sounded like something coming along the coast road. Vehicles from the American Air Base used the road sometimes, but this was no military jeep or lorry. This sounded like a motor car, and by the way the driver was revving the engine, he was in a big hurry. Motor cars were not a common sight on the coast road, especially in wartime. People didn't go out for a drive anymore unless they were going somewhere, and that meant using the main road through the village to North Horsham, or the London road. To have a car materialise right there at the exact moment she was sitting helplessly in its path struck Marlene as a cruel stroke of fate. Frantically, she tugged at her foot in a desperate attempt to free it from her bicycle wheel. The sound intensified, and now she could see the vehicle looming through the mist of driving rain. She raised both arms, waved like mad, and yelled at the top of her voice. For a terrifying moment she thought the metal monster might plough right over her. The tires squealed and slithered on the wet roads, and she caught a glimpse of a white face behind the windscreen before the black bonnet swept past her and came to rest in the ditch at the side of the road. Marlene's teeth chattered, and her entire body shook at her narrow escape.